Welcome to Real Paranormal Activity, the network. Entertainment you'll enjoy.
You are listening to an RPA production, where people gather. LaFosse Corporation, LLC.
The world is full of mysteries. It's full of strangeness. And it exists with oddities. That's what we do on this show. We examine the strangeness, the mysterious, the oddities. This is Terry's Mysterious Moments, and I am your presenter, Terry from Texas. This is Season 8. Welcome if it's your first time. Welcome back if you've been here before. Go with us on this trip while we look at cryptids like Bigfoot, the Yeti, the Loch Ness Monster, and maybe even Thunderbirds. Be with us while we examine stories of legends such as werewolves, vampires, witches, ghosts, and hauntings. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. This is your presenter, Terry from Texas, with another episode of Terry's Mysterious Moments. Since I have been doing this a while, I have come to some conclusions about my own beliefs regarding the paranormal, the supernatural, what have you, and the way it's presented in public, on TV, in movies, some of the people that are involved in it, and I won't mention names, but I just want to warn you that this is going to be an episode of personality, an episode of opinions, so I'll warn you in advance. It may not be what you think this show ought to be, but it's something I feel needs to be done. I personally have been interested in the paranormal since I was a child. I used to stay up late on Friday and Saturday night to watch scary movies. Anything that had to do with ghost stories, I was interested in. I used to read comics that told strange stories about the Yeti, different things, strange happenings around the world. One of my favorite comic books to read was Ripley's Believe It or Not. They had some interesting stories. Now, the interesting thing about Robert Ripley is that he never said, these stories are all true. He said, believe it or not. He presented you with a situation. The belief was yours. That's how I believe in certain things. I have a belief in the spiritual world, ghosts, revenants, poltergeists. I don't know what poltergeists honestly are, but I believe they exist. I believe ghosts exist. Again, I'm not exactly sure what they are. I am starting to consider the fact that some spiritual activity, and this would include shadow people and Bigfoot, some of these things are interdimensional, possibly. that the spiritual world exists alongside ours, but in a different dimension. That's why they sometimes cross over and we see them, they react to us. So I don't know. I believe in Bigfoot. I've never seen one, but I believe that the body of anecdotal evidence would tend to lend credence to there actually being these creatures. Things like vampires. I love the stories. And one of the reasons I love the stories of vampires, especially the Dracula myth, is that Dracula attempts to find forgiveness for his condition because he knows that his version of eternity is not what eternity should be. So I enjoy the stories. Werewolves, I think there could possibly be something in the werewolf mythos, whatever you want to call it. I don't know that people could actually change into a wolf-like creature, although those have been reported that they have seen human-like wolf creatures. And that's all over the world. I love the story of the werewolf. Mummies? Nah, don't think so. There are numerous mummy type stories from around the world that people tell, and they're usually not beneficial stories. They are not good stories. Mummies coming alive to create havoc, to cause death, to cause panic. I don't hold that there are mummies who get up and walk, although the Hollywood stories of the mummy are great. They're fun to watch, fun to experience. Witches, I believe there are people who have a nature religion and who believe that they have the power to do certain things, and they may actually have the power to cause some things through natural herbal remedies or herbal causes. I don't think that they can get out and fly around on their broom, and I don't think that, they cause little kids to get lost in the woods so they can have something to eat, But are there people who call themselves witches? Yes. Are there people who are actually witches? Of those who call themselves witches, I think that there are some that are just misguided. That's just my opinion. I've watched some shows recently that deal with things like why was Stonehenge built? And they've come up with some valid conclusions. I'm not sure if that's the right word to use, but they've come up with valid conclusions on why Stonehenge was built. What's the use of Stonehenge? And they were very interesting to watch. There are strange sights all over the world, including here in the United States. The mounds in the central U.S. Why did people build mounds? I'm not exactly sure. Some say that it was funerary rituals that caused them to build mounds. I don't know why. Why were the lines of Nazca cut into the earth? Were they cut or were they just worn into the earth? It says some of the theories say that people walked these paths in rituals, thus cutting through the topsoil into the chalky underlayer, exposing the whiteness, thus exposing the lines. And they made these wonderful pictographs, I think is what they call them. And they're not only in South America, they're all over the place. It just depends on where you look. Early Americans drew on rocks to tell a story. They had some concepts that they could only put down in pictures, so they did, but they tried to tell the story of what their beliefs were. Do I believe in them all? No, because I wasn't raised in that culture, and I don't accept. But that's not a judgment, that's just my opinion. Oddly enough, I believe in UFOs, and I will not use that new term just because somebody didn't like the UFO word. And I saw a show that had the guy that claimed to have coined the term UAP, and he just looked like somebody that UFO wasn't good enough for him, so he had to come up with a new word. I have seen UFOs in the sky. I have seen strange things. But I have not seen them on the ground, and I have not seen strange little alien creatures running around them. So oddly enough, I believe in UFOs. I just don't hold much for aliens. Thus, I don't hold out a lot of hope for the alien abduction stories, especially from the 50s and 60s, because the people that tried to get the story used hypnosis, and relating hypnosis to another situation, kids who claim to have been abused as children while undergoing hypnosis and regression, I think as they call it, have come up with some very unusual concepts of things that never happened to them. So I question whether some of that stuff is valid. If someone says, I saw Bigfoot in my backyard and it was tearing up my chicken coop or my pig pen or killing my dogs, my BS meter doesn't always go off because that's their experience. It's not mine. I can't say it didn't happen. I can believe that it didn't happen, but I can't say that it didn't happen. The Patterson-Gimlin film of the Bigfoot in California back in the 60s, I remember seeing that when it was brand new. I was watching an afternoon television show and this film was presented. And from day one, I've considered it true. I don't think it was a man in a monkey suit. I mean, Hollywood came out with some real stinker movies that used a man in a monkey suit, but I don't think this was it. The legends of the indigenous peoples from anywhere in the United States and Canada up through Alaska over to Russia talk about these big hairy creatures, some of them extremely destructive and violent, others not so much. So what are they talking about? Is it a dream that they had? Is it a drug-induced concept in their mind? I don't think so. I think there are things out there that we just haven't found yet. And when they say, well, bring me a body. Well, hunters can't bring you bodies of bears unless they shot them and took them out of the woods themselves. They don't normally find dead animals, bones and corpses, because nature takes care of itself. Orbs is one thing that I'm not, number one, I'm not knowledgeable on, and number two, I'm not real hip on. People say, oh, this orb has a face in it. I think there's a speck of dust or a bug near the camera, honestly. One show talks about, you see this light anomaly. I think it was a bug or a piece of dust, and just the way it was filmed. But then again, like I said, that's my opinion. I tell stories on this show all the time, and they're stories that I have an interest in. They've interested me when I read them. When I've studied them, I find more interest. That's why I tell the stories. But some of them, I'll tell the story because it's presented, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm 100% in belief of the situation. I still believe the Amityville Horror is about 90% made up. That it was a way for this couple to get out from under a mortgage. But then again, I also have to wonder, because anybody else that has lived there since has said, oh, there's nothing wrong with this house. I have to wonder if the Lutz family were somehow the ones haunted rather than the house. And there's been some evidence by one of the boys that George Lutz may have been into something he shouldn't have been into. But is it a deadly haunted house? I don't think so. People who call themselves demonologists and find demons in almost everything. Oh, there's a knock on the wall in the house. Oh, it's a demon. You see something gliding across the yard in the middle of the night. Oh, it's a demon. It's like people who call themselves ufologists, or they like UFOs. If they go out looking for one, they're going to find one, I believe. It's like when I was getting ready to get my license and I was looking for what kind of car I wanted. The cars that I saw on the street in traffic were the cars that I was interested in. My eye would be drawn to that car. Oh yeah, that's one of the cars I like. Or that car, yeah, that's not the color I want, but that's the car I want. That's what I would see. I wasn't interested in Volkswagens or pickups or, Dodge muscle cars. The kind of car I wanted, I saw all the time. Is that the situation? I don't know. It could be. It could just be my explanation for it. I love telling these stories that I tell, especially the strange ones. That's why I call the show Terry's Mysterious Moments, because not everything I find is a ghost story. And when I do find one, chances are it's been told and told and told so many times in so many ways that I'm just not willing to add to the list. If I find something that everybody thinks is a haunting, and I can say that it's not because I've experienced it and I've done it myself, I'll tell you, it's not a haunting. For instance, the best thing I can say about that is the so-called haunted railroad tracks in San Antonio, where supposedly a bus full of kids got stalled on the tracks and got hit by a train, and the kids were killed. And now if you go out and park and put your car in neutral and let off the brakes, your car will be pushed up and over the railroad tracks. And if you put baby powder on the back of the car, you will see handprints form. Now, here's the deal. You can't do that anymore because they fixed it with a different kind of crossing now. They've got arms out there, and you have to stop. You can't just ease it on over the tracks. But the direction you come from to get to these tracks, you come off the main road and you drop down on a hill. The hill is what propels you up and over the tracks. You're not that much higher on the tracks, but you are on enough of a hill that it makes your car go up and over. It's called a gravity hill. It's not a haunting. And the name of the streets in the local housing area are not the names of the kids killed in the car wreck or something like that, because they're the names of the kids of the developer and the grandkids of the developers. There was never an accident at that crossing. It happened in the 30s in the state of Utah, but for some reason was widely reported throughout the United States. And for some reason, San Antonio grabbed onto it and put it into their psyche like it was a real thing. There are so many places here in San Antonio that are called haunted. And there are some very weird places here in San Antonio. I've worked at some, I've visited others. Yes, there are some very weird things here. Are they all haunted? I don't think so. But people believe what they will. I, for one, believe in ghosts because I've seen one, experienced others. I believe in cryptids, again, because of the reports, the anecdotal evidence, knowing full well that some of it could be just a big pile of BS. But there's enough anecdotal evidence to make me believe that there could be something there. UFOs. I've seen 2, experienced possibly a third. Never seen one on the ground. Never seen aliens. Not too sure about alien abductions. I think that may just be a mental thing. So, what's one of the things I'm trying to say here? That a belief in the paranormal is a matter of faith. It's a matter of faith as to what you believe in. Do you believe in ghosts? Okay. Do you believe in UFOs? Do you believe in cryptids? It's all a matter of faith. I love the weird stories that I tell, specifically from war. Like the episode I did on haunted battleships, haunted warships. Some very good stories about the ships that have served the United States, specifically in World War II. But there were others. And I think that we need to remember those who died on those ships. The story about phantom airplanes that showed up and there's nobody in them. I love those stories because I don't know what causes it. But anyway, I know this is a departure. This is different. This is not what you normally expect to hear on Mysterious Moments. But because I have watched so many different paranormal shows this last week or two, some of it I'm looking at going, yeah, that's probably very real. And others I look at it and go, you have got to be kidding me that you would believe this. So I find within myself, when that BS meter goes off, I have to maybe look at it and go, is that just my opinion that it's not real? And I have to wonder, Do you have opinions like that? Maybe you believe some of the stories I tell aren't real. That's okay. They may not be. I don't know. I just present them. I research them, and then I present them. And I'm like Robert Ripley. Believe them or not. Anyway, that's what I've got for this week. And like I said, I know it was a departure and it was different. But maybe it'll help you think about some things. Consider some other things. To be discerning in what you believe and what you understand. That's what I have for this week. I hope you have a great week. Be safe out there. And come back next time for more Terry's Mysterious Moments. Have a good week. Bye.